Good evening, students. Welcome you all to StudyIQ IS English. In today's video, we're going to discuss an important decision taken by Assam's government. Yes, now Assam government has initiated certain steps to ensure that Assam remain free from infiltration, especially cross-border infiltration. Apart from that, the government is also ensuring that the state shall always be prepared in case of disaster management. Now, what are the steps that are being taken by the state government? State government, Assam's government, it has become the first government in this country that has tried to leverage space technology, that means satellites technology, to protect borders from infiltration as well as to ensure that the state always remain prepared in case of floods or any sort of natural calamity. Because we all understand that from Assam, a strategic river Brahmaputra passes, and Brahmaputra usually floods in the case of monsoon. So that's why two important factors were taken into consideration before taking this decision. One was to protect state from natural calamities, especially floods, and secondly to secure the borders of Assam. Now, Assam government has floated a tender. It has floated a tender to private companies to submit some proposals, and the proposal would be regarding creation, design and manufacturing of satellites. Now, Assam government will use these satellites for the purpose of keeping vigil as well as for the purpose of keeping monitoring over the landscape over Assam. Now, this is a very welcome move. Now, so through this imagery, you will be able to understand. So this is the state of Assam. Now, through these private satellites that will be working in a constellation, and that will be roaming over the earth in the low earth orbit, and with the help of the images generated by the cameras in these satellites, imagery will be taken to ensure that no cross border infiltration either from Bangladesh takes place. Secondly, that any sort of natural hazard can be predicted at the earliest. See, now this venture, or we can say this initiative, it would be termed as AssamSAT. So once these 5 satellites, or the constellation of 5 satellites, it is in space orbit, it would be collectively called as AssamSAT, and there would be minimum of 5 coordinated satellites operating as a unified constellation, and they'll be operating from the low earth orbit. So there are different orbits in which the satellites revolve, or we can say the satellites roam around the earth, and one such orbit is called as low earth orbit. There is another orbit that is called as near earth orbit. So this satellite will roam over the earth in LEO, that means lower earth orbit, and it will try to capture images. It will try to capture images through certain cameras that will be embedded in these particular satellites, and then the data will be sent to the monitoring center at ground. Now, the cameras will be able to capture images in optical, hyperspectral, as well as they'll be using radar by the name of synthetic aperture radar. Now, this initiative, it comes across from a declaration that was made by the Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Hemant Biswa Sarma, in 2025 budget to ensure that Assam remains free from infiltration. Now, again, I tell you, so there would be a constellation of 5 satellites that will be providing on-ground coverage 24/7. Now, what will happen is, because of these multiple satellites, for every hour, images will be generated. And that will help in tracking either the increase in flow of water and the areas that are vulnerable for floods, as well as any sort of movements that are happening in areas that are ecologically fragile, or any sort of movement that is happening across borders. So now these satellites, they will secure the boundaries of Assam from space. Secondly, so there are certain risk factors that Assam faces. One is Brahmaputra. So this is the Brahmaputra Valley. All of us understand that Brahmaputra, it originates from Tibet, and then it is called as Sangpon Tibet, and then it moves southwards and it enters Arunachal Pradesh through a gorge, and then it enters into Assam. And Brahmaputra, it being a volatile river, it sometimes causes floods, because Brahmaputra is also joined by multiple tributaries. We have Lohit, we have Dihang, we have Dibang, we have Subansiri, we have Dhansiri. So all of these tributaries, they join Assam, and in the month of from June, July, August, September, the water level in Assam, the water level in Brahmaputra, it somehow reaches up to the peak. So there is always a vulnerability of flood. So because of that, now these satellites, they will track the rise in water level. So through these cameras, they will try to track the rise in water levels, and they will try to predict a hazard, or we can say they'll try to predict a flood if by any chance there is a probability of its occurrence. Now, apart from that, the biggest threat that Assam faces is cross-border infiltration. So these satellites can also capture imagery, and it can also detect the movement of people along the volatile borders. Now, one of the major problem that Assam faces is that Chars. So there are certain islands. Now what happens? Assam has tried to protect its borders by fencing the boundaries. Now the geography of Assam is in such a manner that the land boundary between Assam and Bangladesh, or we can say India and Bangladesh, passes through certain riverine islands. Now these islands, they get flooded in case of monsoon. So when the water in the rivers are high, so because of that, these riverine islands, they get flooded. So even if these islands have been protected through fencing, through physical fencing, now the physical fencing won't work at all, because now the water level is high. So the fencing will disappear. So through this picture, you can understand. So this is the pre-monsoon Char. This is an island. This is a riverine island. And there is appropriate fencing so as to stop any sort of illegal infiltration. And now, because of the monsoon, the water in the river will swell, and because of that, the water level will rise, and this fencing, this physical fencing, will be either be destroyed or it will become immaterial. And because of that, now it would be easy to cross borders. So this can be taken care of through these satellites, because satellites will generate real-time data that can ensure tracking of the people across the borders. Now, what is the problem regarding satellites, the national satellites? Because all of us understand that ISRO operates a constellation of multiple satellites. We all know that ISRO operates these remote sensing satellites. It also operates these tracking satellites. It also operates satellites that are used for military purpose as well as border monitoring. So why can't Assam just use the satellites that are already being used by ISRO? So the major problem is time delay. That means, now suppose if Assam government want to requisition certain data from the central authorities, or we can say the national authorities, it has to send a request. So suppose in Assam, Brahmaputra is swelling. Now the state disaster management authority has to seek data. It will have to submit a request to National Remote Sensing Center, and then this request will be processed, and then it will be fulfilled, and then you will have reply from this National Remote Sensing data. So sometimes it takes time. So now if Assam will have its own constellation of satellites, so now the state disaster management authority, it can directly track the data that will be made available through these satellites, and it can predict any sort of natural disaster, especially floods. So this will be a direct benefit. And it will expedite, it will speed up the rescue as well as relief efforts that can be carried on by the state disaster management authorities. Now second, there was one more concern, because during the time of monsoons, because northeast is an area that receives high rainfall, because that means for 4 to 5 months, that especially the monsoon months, there will always be heavy and dense cloud cover. Now there are certain cameras that cannot work well, that cannot provide real-time imagery, or they cannot go for real-time tracking in case the sky is heavily clouded. So for that purpose, an advanced camera is being onboarded on these satellites. So major problem is, if there is a standard optical satellites, or if there is an optical camera, there are probabilities that it cannot penetrate the heavy and dense cloud cover. It cannot penetrate the heavy and dense cloud cover over the sky. Because of that, real-time monitoring will become difficult. But now in these satellites, we have a radar by the name of synthetic aperture radar. Now, it is a very advanced radar that can even penetrate the cloud covers, and it can generate real-time data for the purpose of tracking and for the purpose of generating vulnerability assessment. Now, so this is the benefit of synthetic aperture radar capabilities, and it is also very important for the purpose of your examination. So SAR radars, they can have 100% penetration even through storms, right? Optical sensors, they might be blocked. Their signals might be blocked by this heavy cover, this heavy cloud cover, right? Optical sensors also require bright sunlight. These synthetic aperture radars do not require bright sunlight, right? So for optical sensor, we require clear skies, but in case of synthetic aperture radars, there is no need of clear skies if they work even in the case of dense clouds. So now, summarizing, so once this AssamSAT, it is in skies, once they start rotating around the earth in the form of constellation, so they will be generating data, they will be generating real-time data, and on the basis of this data, images can be created, and on the basis of that images, vulnerability assessment can be conducted. So first of all, they can secure the national security. That means sometimes, we have an area which is called as Siliguri corridor. Now this area falls on a very strategic, it falls in a very strategic position, because this area at most or at its narrowest, it is just 21 kilometers wide. On one side there would be Bangladesh, and another side there would be Nepal. So now if this area is cut off, so it will result in cutting off the entire northeast from India. So that's why this area needs to be protected at any cost, and for this the images from these satellites can be used for the purpose of monitoring as well as surveillance. One. Secondly, there have been reports that in Kaziranga National Park, so all of us know that Kaziranga National Park, it's a very important biological diversity hotspot in Assam, and there have been reports that poaching of rhinoceros have been going on under the dense foliage areas. So these particular satellites can also uncover any sort of poaching activity that might be going on in Kaziranga National Park. So it will also result in wildlife protection. Apart from that, illicit trafficking of drugs. So in Northeast, one major problem is trafficking of drugs, especially across the borders from Bangladesh as well as from Myanmar. So now, because of the data from these satellites, even the trafficking of drugs or the movement of the peddlers can be tracked. And last is economic resilience. That means if the government of Assam will have early assessment, or it will have early warning with respect to any sort of ensuing natural disaster or floods, so it can take proactive measures, it can go for relief and rescue, and it will result in lowering the risk that people might be facing, and it will ultimately provide economic benefits to the people. So these benefits, or we can say the satellites will provide these benefits, and this is why this is a welcome step that has been taken by Assam. It has become the first state in the country to own its own constellation of state observation, or we can say the land observation satellites. So once this AssamSAT is operational, so Assam will have the distinction of becoming the first state in India to own and to operate its own band of satellites for multi-purposes. So with this, we'll end up the video for today. It was a short video only for the purpose of explaining you the venture or initiative that has been taken by the state of Assam, that is AssamSAT. That's all for today. Thank you.